Bonjour. So today we are just finishing up our reflexive verbs. There's just one last part that I need to teach you for this year. And yeah, that's it. Okay. So today we are talking about reflexive verbs and how they work in Passé Composé. Okay. Now let's just review real fast. Once again, a reflexive verb is anything that has the s on the front of it. Okay. Remember, reflexive verbs are the ones that you do to yourself or to get fancy. It is that the subject is receiving the action of the verb. Like if I say je me réveille, I am waking myself up. All right, I'm not waking anybody else up, like the neighbors or my brother or the dog or whatever. Okay, je me réveille, because it's reflexive. I am waking myself up. Okay, so once again, this slide is in present tense. So this is what we've already done. So se réveiller is je me réveille. Tu te réveilles. Il se réveille, elle se réveille. Nous nous réveillons, vous vous réveillez, ils se réveillent, elles se réveillent. So once again, we need these little pieces of me, te, se, nous, vous, se, because they are reflexive verbs, okay? So now let's review Passé Composé real fast because it's been a little while since we have talked about it. Okay, now remember when we do Passé Composé, remember, is the past tense, the completed past tense. Okay, we need a subject, we need a helping verb, and then we need our past participle. Now remember, in French, our helping verb is either going to be avoir or être. Okay, and why I have a little star by être, remember which ones take être. The ones that take être are the ones that we learned way back around Thanksgiving of Dr. and Mrs. Vandertramp. Okay, now remember, Dr. and Mrs. Vandertramp, those are going to be the ones that you might need to add the E or the S depending on who or what we're talking about, depending on who the subject is. Okay, if it's a female, you're going to add an E. If it's multiple people, you're going to add the S. Sometimes you might not need to add anything. Okay, but remember, if it is not Dr. and Mrs. Vandertramp, it is going to go with avoir. That is what we have learned so far. Okay, now just to review the past participles real fast. Most of the time, some of them are going to be irregular. That's fine. All right, we know how to deal with those as we learn them. Okay, but if it is an ER verb, it goes to E with an accent. So again, we're going to get something like manger, with that accent. If it is an IR, it's going to end in an I. We take off that IR and just leave it with the I. So then it's going to be something like fini. And then an RE is going to end with a U. So it's going to be something like attendu. Okay, so remember, those are regular ones. Okay, now again, we've got a whole list going on of irregulars like prendre is pris and mettre is mis. Venir is venu, and that sort of stuff. Okay, so that is just the very, very basic quick rundown of how to do the passé composé in French. Okay, so now let's take a look at the new stuff of what we do with these reflexives. Okay, now, as I said, subject, helping verb, past participle. Again, usually our helping verb is avoir and être. But the new thing is that not only do être, does être go with Dr. and Mrs. Vandertramp, now we also use être as our helping verb when it comes to reflexive verbs. Okay, so go ahead and add that to your notes. Okay, so anytime I talk about passé composé from here on out, I'm going to ask you, okay guys, come on, which ones take être? And you're going to say Dr. Mrs. Vandertramp and reflexive verbs. Okay, so and reflexives, that's the second part to this. Now, just like let's review être really fast. Okay, so again, if you need to write this down in your notes, je suis, tu es, il, elle, on est, est, nous sommes, vous êtes, ils, elles sont. Okay, so that is going to be our helping verb for this time around. We do not even need to worry about avoir for this section, okay? Because when we are doing reflexives, we just need to worry about être as our helping verb. Okay, now as we were talking in the last slide, you do need to add E's and S's. Okay, you do need to add E's and S's going along with reflexives. Okay, but let's go ahead and take a look at some examples. All right, So I went ahead and took the same verb that we did on the first slide, or the second slide actually. All right, so se réveiller. But now let's look at what it is going to be when we put this in passé composé instead. Okay, so I have je me suis réveillé. Okay, je me suis réveillé. You can see there I have my je me. Okay, there's my little pronoun. And then I have my helping verb. I have my être. Je me suis réveillé. Now, as you can see, I am adding a possibility of an E there. So if I am saying it, I am a female, I'm going to go ahead and write that extra E. Je me suis réveillé. But boys, males, do not need to add that extra E. So then it would just be je me suis réveillé without that E. Okay? Now, tu t'es réveillé. Once again, there's my es for my helping verb. That's the être. And again, depending on who tu is, I might need to add that e as well. Okay, if it's a boy, no e. If it's a girl, yes e. Now, il s'est réveillé. Now, I did split these out. I'll go ahead and put the next one up as well. All right, il s'est réveillé. I do not need to add anything to il s'est réveillé because we already know it's a guy. Okay, and again, we can see that that est is the helping verb. Elle s'est réveillée, there's no more parentheses because I definitely need that e because I know I'm referring to a girl when I say elle s'est réveillée. Okay, let's look at the next half. Now, nous nous sommes réveillés. Nous nous sommes réveillés. Again, we might need to add an e depending on who nous is. If nous is referring to all girls, definitely that e. But we definitely need that s because nous is always plural. All right. So nous nous sommes réveillés. And remember, these e's and s's do not affect the pronunciation. It is just spelling when you go to write it or read it. Okay, next one, vous vous êtes réveillé. Now remember, vous can refer to a lot of different people. So if we're talking to one male that we're using in the formal form, okay, then we don't need to add anything. If we're talking to one female that we're using the formal form, then we're going to need to add an E. If we're talking to a mixed group or all guys, add the S. If we're talking about a group of girls, then it's going to be an ES. But again, we kind of have four options for this, all depending on who vous is referring to. So that's why I put both the E and the S in parentheses because nothing is certain in that one. Okay, the next one, ils se sont réveillés. No more parentheses. We definitely know we're definitely going to need to add an S on this. Ils se sont réveillés. All right, and then elles se sont réveillées. Again, no more parentheses on that one because we definitely know who we're talking about. In that case, we're talking about a group of girls. So that's why we definitely need to add that E and S. Now, again, talking about these E's and S's, okay, there is one exception to all of this stuff. Okay, the exception is there is no agreement. Do not add any E's and S's if we are adding on a body part. So if I want to say she washed herself, well, then we're going to go ahead and add the E. But if we say she washed her hands or she washed her face or she washed her hair, because we're adding on that body part of hands, hair, or face, then no more agreement. You do not need to add the S anymore, or sorry, the E anymore. Okay, so let's take a look at some of these examples in context. So, ce matin, ma mère s'est réveillée à 7h30. So this morning, my mom woke up at 7:30. So again, here's our verb of s'est réveillé. Okay, there is my helping verb of être. Okay, and yes, I do need to add that extra E because who is my subject? My subject is my mother. Okay, ce matin, ma mère s'est réveillée à 7h30. Next one, nous nous sommes promenés au parc. So this one is just simply, we went for a walk in the park or we walked in the park. Okay, so once again, here is my être. I don't know who nous is referring to in this case, so I might need to add that E, but definitely that S because there's more than one person walking in the park here. Okay, next one. Je me suis brossé les dents avant de partir. I brushed my teeth before leaving. Okay, so once again here, again, it's not je me suis brossé with nothing added because the je is a male. It could be, but really, once again, like I said, that exception here, because we have that body part, don't add an E. Okay, the body part gets in the way of all that. Okay, so no more agreement if we have a body part. Je me suis brossé les dents avant de partir. I brushed my teeth before leaving. Okay. À quelle heure est-ce que tu t'es couché hier soir? What time did you go to bed last night? Okay, so à quelle heure est-ce que tu t'es couché? So again, there is my helping verb, which is être, of course. There is my little pronoun that I need from reflexives. And again, depending on who tu is, there's nothing in the sentence to tell me who tu is. So again, we might need to add that E, just again, depending on who tu is. Okay, one more example. Elles se sont lavé les cheveux samedi matin. So we know that it's elles, we know that it's multiple girls, so that's why it's se sont. Elles se sont lavé les cheveux. Now, we know that it's multiple girls. Why are we not adding an E and an S here? It's because of this body part. It's not they washed themselves on Saturday morning. We are being more specific and we're saying that they washed their hair. Again, because that body part is in there, because that body part gets in the way, no more agreement. Okay, no more adding E's and S's if you have a body part. Okay, now last thing, let's just go ahead and take a look of what these are going to look like in negative. Okay, now remember, as always, the ne pas sandwich goes around the helping verb, not the whole verb, just the helping verb. Okay, now again, as we've talked about this me, tu, nous, and vous, and the le, la, les, and the lui, leurs, and all of this stuff goes inside the sandwich. So that is the same thing. Okay, so the me, te, se, nous, vous, ce is going to go inside the ne pas sandwich. All right, so il ne s'est pas couché avant minuit. So there is my ne pas, there is my helping verb along with my pronoun. Ne pas goes around that. So do not touch coucher. Coucher goes outside the sandwich, okay? So il ne s'est pas couché avant minuit. He didn't go to bed before midnight. Okay. Je ne me suis pas maquillée aujourd'hui. I didn't put on my makeup today. Okay, so again, je ne me suis pas. So there's my pronoun, there's my helping verb, and the ne pas goes around that. Now, depending on who je is, you might need to add the extra E. If I'm talking about myself, I'm not going to have to do those parentheses. I'm just going to add the E. But again, it all depends on who je is. Okay, next one. Elles ne se sont pas habillées élégamment pour la fête. So again, there is my pronoun, there is my helping verb, ne pas goes around that. We do know who the subject is, so that's why we're adding that E and the S. All right, elles ne se sont pas habillées élégamment pour la fête. They did not dress elegantly for the party. Okay, last example. So, tu ne t'es pas souvenu de mon anniversaire. So, there is my pronoun, there is my helping verb, ne pas goes around that. Souvenu is just left to it's alone. Okay, and remember that this is the verb too. Remember. So, tu ne t'es pas souvenu de mon anniversaire. You did not remember my birthday. Okay, and by the way, I did use this example because it is like venir. Okay, so it is not souvenir, it is souvenu. Now, again, depending on who tu is, I might need to add that E. From this context, we don't know who tu is, so just for practice, I'm going to go ahead and leave it in the parentheses. Okay, all right, now that is it. Okay, so really the big gist of the reflexive verbs in the passé composé is that you have to use être as your helping verb. And again, because we're using être as our helping verb, we may or may not need to add E's or S's. Okay, now again, the only exception when we would not add E's and S's, depending on the subject, is if there is a body part that gets in the way, like washing hands, brushing teeth, something like that. Okay, well, go ahead, and if you do have questions or if you need to rewatch this video, go ahead and do it. If you still continue to have questions or you need help, please don't hesitate to reach out because I am more than happy to help you.